do this. This movie really fucked with me on an emotional level. I walked out of the theater speechless, confused. I felt hurt. I felt betrayed. And I felt like I wasn't sure what was going on. I went with Henry to see this a couple days ago. And now Henry's a casual fan. Henry doesn't keep up with it like everybody else does. And like normal, after we see something that I'm a little bit more in tune with or a fan of, he tried to ask me some questions, and I basically had to look at him and say, you're going to have to ask me later because I need time to reflect and to come to terms with what I just saw, because as of right now, I can't answer any question that you have. Basically, I really enjoyed episode 7, The Force Awakens, for what it was. You kind of had to play it safe a little bit because you're reintroducing the Star Wars lore and the universe to a whole new generation. I was able to forgive some of the smaller gripes that I had with that movie, knowing that there was going to be 2 other movies in the trilogy, and that, you know, you get people comfortable and back into it, and then you can basically expand in the second 2 movies in that trilogy and hopefully make things make a little bit more sense. And I liked, for the most part, the start off of, you know, even I was able to forgive the Rey character because I thought it was very interesting how she started off almost just like Luke did on a desert planet. You know, and I know a lot of people say that it mirrors A New Hope a little too much, but I can understand how there's going to be some type of need for it to be the same in a lot of aspects. You know, I was really interested in knowing more about Snoke. Like, we'll get to that in a little while. But I felt that killing off Harrison Ford, Han Solo, in The Force Awakens was a smart move. You know, it's no secret he didn't want to be around for Return of the Jedi and thought he should sacrifice himself on The Empire Strikes Back. So he finally got his wish, and they sent him off in a proper way. But the whole point of The Force Awakens, the whole premise of the movie, is them wanting to get this map, the pieces to this map, to get to Luke Skywalker. Because Luke left a map to where he exiled himself, so that if the universe ever needs him, and if anybody is capable enough and anybody is able to do what's necessary to get the pieces of this map put together, they can find him. That whole premise went out the window. Like, the whole main plot of what episode 7 was, episode 8 ignores. I had a hard time with the fact that there really was not a time skip between these movies, and basically you've got this little small part of the, I want to say Rebel Alliance, but it's is it not the Rebellion, but the Resistance, that just got through blowing up Starkiller base, and then they rendezvous back to this other base, and now the First Order's there, and they're having to leave again. You know, it's kind of like the Hoth part without all the battling on Hoth. So they're trying to get the hell out of this base and figure out how we're going to get everybody evacuated. And then for like the first time ever in a Star Wars movie, for some reason, I might be wrong, but I don't remember fuel consumption ever being an issue. You know, like even in The Force Awakens, when Finn and Rey are trying to escape Jakku, they're going to the other ship, and Finn's like, "What about that ship over there?" And she's like, "No, that's a piece of junk." And then the ship they're headed towards gets blown up. She's like, "The junk will do." They jump on the Millennium Falcon, and she said that thing's been parked there for years. You know, kind of given the sense it might even be a decade, 10 to 15 years, and you know, the thing starts right up. It's not like, hey, you know, maybe we should check and make sure that there's enough fuel in the vehicle. You know, maybe it's just my own head canon, but I've come to believe in a lot of instances that like their technology worked on some kind of subatomic particle level or something, and they didn't take like natural fuel or gas or something like that. Because I mean, like, how do you consistently like get enough fuel up to like a big class ship? I don't know. It's not like on Star Trek when they go to the dock and they're pulling into these things, or else. I mean, they never showed it that I'm aware of. Maybe they explain it in like the Rebels or the Clone Wars TV shows. I've never seen most of those, so. But anywho, so anyway, there's like this freeway chase in space where they got their shields up and they're just like, well, they'll run out of gas at some point, so just keep following them. And I'm like, okay, well, that definitely, I guess, makes sense. Whatever, I'll roll with it. You know, I'm not even going to touch on the humor parts of this. You know, people do complain about the Poe Dameron saying I'm holding for Hux thing, but I mean, like, the first time you hear Poe really talk to anybody in The Force Awakens, you know, he's looking at Kylo Ren, he's like, so how are we going to introduce ourselves? You talk, I talk, you know, whatever. So, I mean, that kind of, they've already established that's kind of part of his mentality and his personality. But I don't know, you know, when they point back to the part where it shows Rey and Luke on the island, and you can tell it's been reshot. She's way closer to him than she was at the end of Force Awakens, and she hands out the lightsaber, and he just grabs it and basically disregards it and tosses it over his shoulder. Like, I felt sick to my stomach because I was like, what are they doing? Like, this makes no sense. Like, he left this map for them to find him, and somebody that's even more capable than anybody he probably could ever want to come to this island to be the one to find him, he's like totally disregard. Like, this is not what the last movie was setting this movie up to be whatsoever. Then when he storms off and he walks back up into his little hut and he slams the door, yeah, I was confused at that point in the movie. Like, why would he be doing this? You know, there was a lot of scenes in the movie that I felt didn't really make sense, and probably a lot of stuff that hit the cutting room floor that probably would have helped in places, but I'm not going to go scene by scene with this movie, but basically I felt that they did the character of Luke Skywalker a huge injustice. I don't understand why they made it out like he was going... They set the whole first movie up for somebody to find him, for them to end up saying that he wants to be left alone, and he came there to die. No sense whatsoever. It's kind of like, I mean, everybody complains about it, and I'm convinced at this point that there's, you know, they're making these up as they go. J.J. Abrams did what he could with the first one, established some really cool characters that, even though they annoyed me in the first one, I felt was going to have the progressive time over the course of these movies to either have their shine or have the reasoning for things. And there was no payoff. I mean, like, this whole movie could be summed up with wrong character development or no character development, or we don't like what JJ did in The Force Awakens, so we're just going to use one-liners, or we're going to use like quick scenes to just do away with what we don't like, and we're going to do what we want and focus on certain aspects. You know, just the whole Luke thing just made no sense. Like that was not what I was looking for after 30 years or whatnot. I didn't expect that to be Luke. Now maybe that's what they were going for. You know, most people that don't watch Star Wars as in depth as a lot of people do probably aren't going to really realize the difference. They're going to say, oh, it makes sense, he's done Save the Galaxy, he's done this and done that, he wants to just be left alone. But I mean, like, they never really elaborated on how, like, you finally destroyed the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, you finally turned Vader, and then there's huge celebration. You know, it's like, oh wow, the galaxy's free again. You know, it was stated that Palpatine was the smartest and the most powerful Sith Lord that ever existed, and he was gone. The Sith was no more. Like, Luke had done, like, between Luke and Vader, they ended that cycle. So how in the hell is Snoke more powerful than Palpatine out of nowhere? I'm assuming that Snoke is a remnant of the older times, either from the Old Republic or before even Palpatine. And you know, I still was trying to hold that fan theory and think that they were doing the whole, you know, if they were going to try to trick us into something, that it was going to turn out between episode 8 and 9 that he was Darth Plagueis. He was Darth Plagueis the Wise, the one that Palpatine was telling Anakin about back in Revenge of the Sith, because that would make sense. That would 100% make sense. You know, Palpatine had turned on him, thought he killed him, he didn't. He let Palpatine basically destroy himself, but go ahead and put the galaxy in a position to be ruled. And then after Palpatine, you know, somebody that powerful probably saw the future, that Palpatine was going to be a puppet that he could use by thinking that he had killed him. So it was better just to pretend to stay dead and then to rise back up after Palpatine's actions basically caused him to be defeated on his own. And I thought they were going to bring it full circle, and that would just be badass. You know, there was speculation at one point that Hayden Christensen was going to be in this movie, and I was really hoping it was going to be like maybe Hayden appearing to Snoke and having a conversation for a brief moment or something. I don't know. Like, as you know, Darth Vader, like, you can't win. You know, we destroyed your apprentice, and now you're not going to be able to do it. Like, just some kind of callback, some kind of throwback, even if they weren't really direct with it. But yet, I digress. You know, as anybody that's seen the movie knows that, like, somehow Snoke can basically use the Force without wielding his hands. Force lightning, powerful, can like lift people with just blinking at them. Like, showing way more power with the Force than like any other Sith that we've seen on screen. But then Kylo Ren can, like, he's, you know, telling Rey, like, you know, I know this boy's every thought. He cannot betray me. Like, it sounded like really corny the way that he was just like so adamant, like, I am supreme, I am the strongest, I am the smartest. And then like Kylo Ren's able to like use his hand and like turn the lightsaber, and the next thing you know, he's like cut in half. And it's like, why did you just waste like the most uninteresting way possible? Why did you just waste probably the biggest interesting character people are trying to figure out who the hell they are besides Rey's lineage? And I don't know. I mean, like, we had every fucking movie, even with the prequels and the original trilogy. By the time it got to being like the Emperor was on screen a lot in Return of the Jedi, you were comfortable with that character. You knew who he was, you knew what he had done, you knew a lot of his backstory. So I mean, like, you knew what to expect. I mean, we actually had like a mystery when it came to Snoke. Like, we had a legit, like, oh my god, like, he really is pulling some strings. But how did he put this First Order together, like, out of the remnants of the Empire? You know, on Jakku we're seeing like down Star Destroyers and stuff all in the sand. So I mean, like, you know, Jakku's supposed to be this dump of a planet, which proves that, like, you know, universal wise, galaxy wise, over multiple galaxies or whatnot, that, you know, the effects of the Empire fallen were felt across everything. Now all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, we'll pick up what was still left over. You know, 30 years seems like a lot, but then 30 years don't. You know, that's not that long of a time for something this massive to happen, you know. I mean, I guess you could kind of say that, like, you know, the original Star Wars was like World War One, and this is like supposed to be like World War Two. I mean, because there was, like, you know, Nazi Germany themes involved with, like, The Force Awakens. But I don't know, the way that Snoke went out, and now you're gonna have, like, you know, another problem I had with the first one was, like, of course there's a train. I do apologize. Kylo Ren was a whiny little bitch in the first one, but I thought they did that on purpose, because I figured that they wanted to explore some huge character development over the course, and then after he killed Han Solo in The Force Awakens, that it was going to be like, alright, well, now this guy's about to be, like, lit. His daddy's issues are gone. He's about to be like what he was supposed to be. And, like, in the second movie, I thought it was going to be, like, awesome. You know, his connection with Vader and wanting to finish his legacy, and, like, I will finish what you started and all that. For in the first scene, it's like Rian Johnson was just like, I don't like this direction we were taking Kylo Ren. Like, take off that silly ass helmet. And, like, he just, like, destroys it. And it's like, you know, you are not gonna be Vader, and you cannot be Vader, and all this shit. So it's like Kylo Ren comes to terms with, like, yo, I'm gonna be my own person. I don't need this helmet. You know, I got cut over the nose in the last movie, and now it's on my side of my cheek. So it is what it is. But I don't know. I'm skipping over some things. You know, Finn was a huge disappointment in this movie. His whole side story with Rose was just not even necessary. I think that's the biggest issue I have with this movie. Like, if you compare it with Return of the Jedi or with Empire Strikes Back, because there's elements of both of those movies in this movie. You know, even about halfway through this movie, I felt like I should have been watching an episode 9. Like, there was just, like, so much going on. You're, like, killing off who was supposed to be the person pulling the strings. You got a huge battle on the ship. You know, the Emperor's guards. Like, Kylo Ren in the first one is shown to be able to stop a laser blast mid-air, not even having to hold it, have conversation to what he wants to, and then it just goes off. He should not be struggling with those red guards like that. I'm sorry, I don't believe that, because we're meant to believe from seeing Kylo Ren at the beginning of The Force Awakens that this guy's, like, got things under control that we never saw, like, even other people do back in the past. Like, he's got new training, he's got new teachers, he's got a control over the Force that even looked like it had improved over what the older Force users even thought was possible. Or that's how I took it. And, like, now he's in there, like, basic hand-to-hand combat, like, getting his ass kicked a little bit. Like, it took him and Rey to take down these guys. Which I thought was just like this scene looked like it should have came out of, like, whatever episode 9 would have been. So we got this prolonged casino prequel looking mess where, like, the humor just didn't fit for me, and the CGI looked like it was not on par. But that is what it is with that. Benicio del Toro's character was extremely wasted in this. Like, I really thought that he was going to end up... I didn't think he was going to end up being a good guy, or even... Because I was like, you know, I think that what they want us to do, I think that we're running into another scoundrel like Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian, and that, like, he's going to look like a scoundrel, then he's going to come back and save him. And be like, nah, I had y'all's back all along. And I was like, I don't think they're going to do that. But I thought he was going to turn out to be somebody a lot bigger. Because, you know, he wasn't the original code breaker they went to get. And I thought that they were going to have him end up having a way bigger role. It's kind of sad that people love Star Wars so much that even these big name actors are willing to basically have cameos in them when their characters don't even fit or make sense, or they could have been written out and they didn't have purpose, not real purpose. Excuse me. But the whole Leia flying back to the ship after she started freezing in outer space, I originally didn't have a problem with that when I was first watching the movie. And I'll tell you why. Because I thought after Rey had come back to the island that maybe Luke was using the Force to kind of sense what was going on with Leia, and I was really hoping that they were going to have it to where like Luke had done that. It wasn't Leia's use of the Force. Like Luke had sensed it and was using the Force through the galaxy, or whatever you want to say, to be able to help save Leia. And then when I realized it wasn't like that, that's when I really had a problem with that. The shot was terrible. It was lazily written. Laura Dern's character in this movie was terrible. I couldn't stand seeing her. She got on my nerves. Waste of a perfectly good actress whenever. But like for the context in this, like that's this whole movie. Wasted character potential, wasted character development. I mean, like this whole thing, like, you know, Leia should have been the one that stayed behind on that ship and was like, we'll take this bitch light speed right through Snoke's ship. Like, that would have been a perfect send-off for Leia. Like, no sense whatsoever. I don't know. You know, there's just so much that at the end of, like, so much stuff that was done and sacrifices that were made that made no difference in the story whatsoever. There was half of this movie was not even necessary. It was just to give the characters something to do. You know, the whole Rose and Finn subplot just went nowhere. The one time that I was feeling emotional that somebody was about to die, and I was like, well, you know what? Everybody's talked about him being this hero and that he was a coward and he's actually about to do something, and then that was taken away from him, really pissed me off. And you know, like, everybody was like, oh, it was weird about like Luke being a projection when he's standing facing the walkers and all that. Like, I mean, it was kind of like, you could tell that in the back, you know, his hair was cut and he had darker beard and stuff, and when they were doing the back the flashbacks, and then he showed up like that. It's like, oh, well, you know, he must have just stopped by and got some Just for Men on the way there. Like, I knew something was up with that. And if you pay strong attention, you could see where, like, Kylo's feet moved the salt on the surface of the crate, but Luke's didn't. And, you know, I kind of felt like that was definitely there to allude to something. Dude is busy out today. And I didn't think it was just because he was strong with the Force that he didn't move salt. I didn't think it was a dynamic like that at all. They took General Hux and basically made him into like this useless character for Kylo Ren to take his aggression out on. The rebellion, the new rebellion, the new resistance will... There was no point in killing Luke. Like, he should have just showed up if he was going to die anyway. Like, the whole story made no sense. Like, if this man wanted to go to the island to just die, why didn't he just go face Snoke down? He knew that Snoke was out there. Like, him disconnecting himself from the Force to leave a map to him to tell somebody he just wants to be left alone to die makes no sense. Like, you know Snoke's powerful. If you can sense that Kylo has some kind of darkness in him and Snoke's already got to him to the point to where you even think as Luke Skywalker you spent the whole original trilogy fucking trying to redeem your father because you knew there was a slight bit of good in him, and you fucking did it after the whole other anybody you ever talked to said it's useless. Fucking, you did that. You the fact that you even had a sliver of thought, like, I just need to murder him in his sleep and nip this in the butt before it turns into something, is not Luke's character. That's retarded. It's stupid. And then for you to decide that, like, you're gonna leave a map for everybody to come get me, and I'm just gonna tell them I'm gonna die, makes no sense. Like, he knows that he just found out that Han died. Like, he knows that Han's still out there. He knows his sister's still out there, and like if you really felt ashamed for what you did, why didn't you just go after Snoke, the root of the problem? If you had a fucking death wish, why not go face him down? If Snoke tears you down, you still become one with the Force. I mean, you're still more powerful. I mean, it's not like you've wasted any potential. You know, you're doing the galaxy great detriment by just, like, sitting on a fucking island and milking these creatures and, like, catching fish. Like, and dude, like, and when they showed the X-Wing in the water on the island, I was like, oh, we're gonna get this badass, like, him lifting the X-Wing out and everything, and, like, never got to see it. Like, there was so much wasted potential in this fucking movie. Like, nothing paid off. Nothing paid off. Everything that everybody was thinking for the last 2 years, and all this stuff that was set up in The Force Awakens was just, like, undone. Like, and not even, like, I can understand, like, a certain amount of, like, different directors and different visions and stuff like that, but don't make it so blatant to where it's, like, so quick and, like, all right, now we'll just do it the way I want to. At least be creative about it and make it make sense. Captain Phasma was said to have a bigger role in this movie. Like, she came in, like, fought Finn, and then fell down into some fire. Whoop-de fucking do. Like, there was no point of her even showing up. I don't know. It's very hard. It's very hard to, like, you know, I came home from seeing this movie about 2 o'clock in the morning. Me and Henry went and saw a 10:30 showing at the big IMAX. And I came home and actually woke my wife up and complained about it. Because I was just like, this didn't make sense. This didn't make sense. Like, I don't think I hate it, but I know I don't like it. Like, the part of me that loves Star Wars and gives passes on some things because it is Star Wars and it's not supposed to be taken literally in places, and it's not supposed to be The Godfather Part 2, wants me to give this a pass. And I can do that with a lot of them. But this movie's different. This movie kind of seems like, it felt like it was a sabotage. Like it was purposefully sabotaged. It was way too long. It felt drawn out. This is the first time I've ever watched a Star Wars movie and I was like, can we get to the end already? And that's very unusual for me. Like, even rewatching The Phantom Menace, which I know is a shit movie. I know it's boring. But I can at least stick it out, and I never feel like, alright, can we get to the end already? And that's what bothered me. It, like, killed my spirit. It, like, really, really bothered me. And I know a lot of casual people and a lot of younger people are like, I didn't mind the movie at all. I enjoyed the movie. And it's, I want them to do something different with Star Wars. This is a different time. 2017 is a lot bigger time. You know, there's a lot of difference, especially, you know, culturally, the world itself, the way that movies are now, what we consider the status quo of movies. Yes, I understand that it's a lot different than 1977, 1983, blah, blah, blah. I don't want every Star Wars to feel formulaic. I don't need that. But this was too much of a departure. You know, especially when you have a trilogy, like, and then the way you kind of did The Force Awakens as that formulaic, episodic, you know, entry. Why not kind of, like, do a little bit this one for 8, and then 9's where you, like, really take it, and you really get people like, oh, wow, this is different. Because then that sets it up for the whole future of the Star Wars being like, okay, well, I can accept that now. You know, anything goes now. It's going to be, you know, we finished this arc. but you know, they introduce what their future plans are. Like, you don't just switch it up in the middle chapter. The middle chapter that like sets up the climax for what you just 2 years before introduces new stuff. I mean, like, now we're down to like what are we expecting? I mean, like, Rey and Kylo having a lightsaber battle. She either redeems him or she don't. So she's either gonna have to sacrifice and kill him, or she's gonna have to redeem him. I mean, like, but what are the stakes gonna be at this point? Like, you know, what's the opening crawl gonna be? Like, Kylo Ren with a hissy fit cries and creates the most powerful something in the galaxy. It's up to the rebellion to take it. I don't know. I mean, like, that's. I hope they bring Snoke back. I hope that was more smoke and mirrors, and knowing that I'm hoping that Snoke knows, like, thinks that, like, if they think that Kylo Ren's the main antagonist, that maybe that'll draw Luke out to face his nephew, and that, like, Snoke's gonna come back some way or another. I mean, like, J.J. Abrams had an idea. I mean, I'm not going to say that it was penciled out, but he knew that there was going to be, like, a bigger significance for Snoke than being cut in half on his fucking throne in the second episode of the trilogy. I don't know. Like, my mind gets twisted, like, thinking about it still right now. I'm at about a half hour, so I think what I'm going to do is cut it off here. I'm pretty sure that we're going to have other discussions. I want to bring Ghost in on a discussion about this movie and get it from a perspective of somebody a little bit younger. He has alluded to me that he really liked the movie, and I'd like to kind of sit down and have a good talk with somebody and kind of get both sides. But yeah, my initial reaction, and it still kind of stands, is that, like, I'm going to buy it on Blu-ray, and it's probably going to take some multiple watching to get acceptance of it. But it's going to be because I'm going to have to surrender and basically come to terms with the fact, like, this is going to have to be my episode 8, because it is what it is. And, like, the inner child in me that grew up with Star Wars and that enjoys the brand is gonna basically have to say, well, let's just hope 9's better. So I hope everybody enjoyed me talking about this. I left some of the points vague on purpose, that way I can elaborate more in other videos if need be, but this did not feel like a Star Wars movie in a lot of aspects, and I'm disappointed, and I hope they're able to bring this back from what they've done. I don't care what Rotten Tomatoes says, and I don't care what critics say. The editing and the pacing in this movie was terrible. The visuals look great, but every time that Luke and Rey had any kind of scene on that fucking island, we did not need an establishing panning shot of the fucking island. We knew where the fuck they were. Alright, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Later.